Hey, this is Kyle Golick of the Smacking Off the Podcast. I'm at the Basketball Hall of Fame. You don't need to come to Springfield, Massachusetts. We got our own Hall of Fame analyst in Dr. Balls.
Smacking Off the Podcast.
Chris Scully in the house. Yeah. I'm doing pretty good now that Alabama's quarterback is taking his team into the Super Bowl. I feel great. That's Alabama's quarterback, by the way, in case anybody was confused about that, because it seems to be a lot of people confused about that lately.
So, can't both of them claim him? I mean, I guess.
Look, man, I'm all for that, but I mean, if Oklahoma's going to be Oklahoma fans are going to be petty about it, and they want to do it all for themselves, well, fuck it, I'm going to do it all for myself. He only played there for 3 fucking years. 3/4 of his whole entire collegiate career was at Alabama, so whatever. I'm cool.
No, ain't this been part of an important narrative that Alabama haters have? That Alabama quarterbacks haven't been in the Super Bowl since Joe Davis. So wouldn't that kind of like the 40 years for Georgia? Wouldn't that eliminate that argument?
I don't really want to look at it like that, because obviously I'm an Alabama fan and that's just a gay ass way to look at it. But haters look at it. I'm not a hater, so there's that.
Well, that's what. So we're not haters. We're on left. So we love that Jalen Hurts is in the stinking Super Bowl. See,
Jalen Hurts for president, first Alabama quarterback to run for president successfully. I see it happening.
Oh yeah, and since we're since he's in the Super Bowl and all that, we got all the love and all that going on. Now what if Joe Burrow was in the Super Bowl?
Man, fuck Joe Burrow. Man, I ain't talking. Why are we even doing this segment? Can we be done now? Are we done? Did we just finish this?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, what's up?
I hear you now.
Okay. Chris is Scully's fixing to tell us about how the Super Bowls are predominantly rigged. Am I correct, Scully? Scully?
Scully.
He must have muted us. It was too much fun for him.
Scully.
He wanted to talk about Art Schlichter and other great Penn State quarterbacks.
Chris.
This is an interesting development.
Chris, we see you, but we don't hear you.
Todd Blackledge, Scully.
I think what's happening is he's probably got more than one device going, and he's probably watching porn.
Oh, goodness.
And Chris. But yeah, I mean that's the worst part about that, though. Like when you're using two devices and you're watching porn with the other device, and then you go ahead and kind of mute the conversation like I'll do here in a minute,
Chris.
And then you accidentally jerk the headphone out. That's what I really love about these devices. And I think Chris just hung up, so I think he's probably going to call back. I think that's probably that good and well that perverts designed and actually refined cell phone technology.
Chris,
we hear you now.
We hear you, but not great.
Hold on a minute. You hear me now?
Yeah, just turn the volume up in your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's better.
Jeez, I'm like screaming.
Are you on an iPhone? Android? Well, I don't know what to tell you. Android, usually we have great results. It's the iPhones that give us business. What the hell was that?
Chris, did you just fall?
Chris?
Listen, this is the first fucking time I'm using this thing.
Right.
Well, this is great. Are you got a headphone in, right?
No, I'm speaking on speaker.
Oh, that might be what it is.
Can everybody else hear him?
Yeah, I'm hearing everybody fine. We're good.
Okay. All right. So, Chris, let's get this thing started.
All right.
The Super Bowl's rigged. I need to hear about this.
Well, I'm just I'm just saying though that it's kind of what really kind of got me was when the year Jerome Bettis was announced he was going to retire, and how everything just fell right into place. Like even where they played the Super Bowl that year in Detroit, where he was, a native out of Detroit. And then Ray Lewis announces he was going to retire. And then what happens? Baltimore goes and wins the Super Bowl. And then, you got to say Brady, when that one year when he announced he was going to retire, of course, they gave him the Super Bowl. Here's another thing, too. Right when, Hurricane Katrina happened, who won the Super Bowl? The Saints. The only... See, I refereed 2 years when I lived in Roanoke, Virginia. So I'm not going to sit there and say that these players are being bought off or they're throwing the games. But as a referee, I did it for a little stint. I can tell you right off, the referees control the entire game. There's missed calls. There's stupid flags being thrown.
Goodness. Y'all still there? I think I lost the whole thing.
No, I'm still here. I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Doug?
Yeah.
Doug?
Yeah.
We lost Chris again.
But can you hear Scully? So going to what Scully says, now the only obvious times that I've seen, not obvious that there's some kind of evidence would have been for one, you got to look at intent and who benefits from it, right? So if you go back to the AFL NFL merger, there's a lot of people and even players who played in the game that think that the Colts Jets Super Bowl with Namath was rigged, right? Especially the way Morrill was throwing all those interceptions early in the game. And I know it's a long time ago. It's a well-documented game. NFL Films have spent a lot of time on it. And why is that? Because there was people who thought that the AFL was a second-class league, right? And they were vested in to make the whole NFL successful. They were vested in propping the AFL up, right, so that the league would be considered legitimate. And to that point, the NFC had been crushing whoever the NFC champion was, had been crushing the AFL champions. So they had a vested, in my opinion, in that Super Bowl. If they were ever going to rig one, they had a vested interest in rigging that one.
Yeah, but don't you think today, in the modern times, with the way that information moves backwards and forwards, and the fact that nobody, and I mean nobody, can keep a secret these days.
Nobody can keep a secret.
Yeah, how are you still? When people say that in this day and age, with the way that information moves around, you've got to make a much harder argument than, well, doesn't it look suspicious that, blah, 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 blah. Somebody's got to say something, because
I've got
to
an
rig
answer for that.
Go ahead.
So you go back to the drug wars, right? All the guys that went to El Salvador and Nicaragua and fought in wars that theoretically never happened, right? On paper,
yep.
Right? So them guys came home and talked about it. I know about this for my own.
I've actually seen pictures of soldiers that were not down there.
Right.
That the pictures of the locations that don't exist in the jungles.
Exactly. Right. So what do? They discredit them guys. They make nuts out of them. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they, so you don't believe nothing. They say, oh, that guy, he just talked.
Now, to be fair, anybody that I know that did fight in Reagan's pseudo wars, I guess you could say, for lack of a better term, definitely all are crazy as fuck.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And I mean, it doesn't matter what branch of the military; they're all just, when you get to know them a little bit, it's like, yeah, I'm glad I'm got this guy's on my side, right?
Yeah, so I have very intimate knowledge with everything we're talking about in the regard of that. And what they do is they basically...
Of what didn't happen. So we need to make sure this is not Joe Rogan that you've stumbled upon. This is a sports podcast.
Oh, yeah. So that's the way they can discredit people like Barrett Robbins, right? So if you think about Barrett Robbins and why he missed the Super Bowl. So what was interesting is not just that Barrett Robbins missed the Super Bowl and the way that he missed the Super Bowl. But the fact that Bill Callahan going into the Raiders Super Bowl that they lost because Barrett Robbins didn't show up, right? So so what happened was that week of practice, going into that practice, they practiced a running offense and they were going to physically dominate. And that was their plan. And then on the Saturday in the walkthrough before the game, Callahan decides to just toss that game plan. And Robin's like, "Is you're not? I've been practicing for this all week. I'm the center. There's no way I can have this figured out by tomorrow." And he didn't show up for the game. The Raiders get crushed. So some people say that was rigged. Why did Barrett Robbins not show up? Well, they say he had a breakdown. But what if he had a breakdown of like he owed the mob some money or something and they gave him the real breakdown? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, but I mean, will this, what would be the reason to rig this Super Bowl one way or the other? Just if we're continuing this conversation.
No, the one this week, the only reason would be betting, right? And since now the NFL's in obvious bed with the betting agencies, they're letting them advertise it during their games. Anything's possible, right? And, a lot of morality America has coarsened in my life is the best way to put it, right? And and because people, for whatever reason, they don't if they're getting their moral background from the school system, then they don't have one, right? Mm. So these are a time when the NFL's in bed with all the gambling agencies, which are basically the mob. And it's obvious, right? Before it was a matter of prestige that they weren't involved in it. But surely they were involved in it, but it was under the table. So that basically they wasn't letting people get a cut, and only specific people made money off the graft in the NFL. But now the NFL is in bed with graft, and everybody can get a piece of it.
Chris, can you hear?
Just look at the NFL business license. It's the same as the WWE. So it's entertainment. Now, the NFL and the NBA have the same business license as entertainment. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm not going to, go off talking and say the NBA could be scripted about who wins. But start off with the licensing. So basically, with the NFL being an entertainment business, they have every right to dictate the outcome of the games. And I'm going to reinstate it. I totally don't believe it's the players that are throwing the games. It's all done by the referees. Okay.
If you're going to do it, and we have seen games, NFL and college level that, we're definitely head scratchers as far as play calling goes. When, there's been more than a few games where people have said something about collusions with the ref, and you can't really argue against them, even though you have no proof. Because you saw the same game and you saw what went down. Yeah, that was kind of shitty.
I just heard a great statement. Somebody said only referees and politicians can fuck up and not get in trouble.
A weatherman.
Weatherman, yeah.
But okay, like when I started refereeing football, right? I'm a rookie, first year. Well, of course, they don't let you do high school games, so it was basically youth, middle school, and JV games. But they told me, now I had a mentor my very first year, and as he was talking to me, he told me that if the penalty or the foul does not interfere with the outcome of the play, don't call it. So, that already was, stuck in my head. Because I'm going to tell you something. If a referee throws a flag over another referee's back, that's going to piss that referee off.
Yeah.
Because it's going to make him look bad. So
I mean,
What
you're
I'm
making a
saying,
great case
is
that there.
what's
You're making
that?
a great case that there's no way that the system's perfect, but as far as is it being rigged?
Well, like I said, if it's being rigged, it's got to be trickled down through the referees.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, hi. I'm Clemson Bain, and this is Smacking Off, the podcast.
It's like cocaine or something. I don't know. These motherfuckers just talk about college sports, specifically college football, and man, let me tell you, it's a hoot.
You can now tag team our affiliate retail deals with Overstock, Walmart, and Best Buy.
Find our affiliate links at smackology.42web.io and click affiliates at the top of the page.
Well, you can call a holding or whatever on every play. And that's one of the things of being a punt returner, right? Is that you think you busted it, you just scored, right? But you didn't just score because somebody clipped behind you and you don't even know a fucking thing about it. It didn't have nothing to do with the play.
I'll tell you what. I think one of the best was when Notre Dame was playing for a national championship and they had the Rocket, and Notre Dame needed that.
Ismail, I remember him.
Yeah, and Rocket took that. I don't know if it was a punt or a kickoff return. He took it all the way to the house. Well, when Rocket got right around, he edged that corner and he was coming down the sideline, there was a block, but I don't think it was a block in the back. But I think, was it Oklahoma they played? Or Nebraska? I can't remember. But the defensive guy, he went right up to the ref and said, "Hey, I just got blocked in the back." And then the ref threw the flag right there, just on the defensive player calling the penalty against him. So, I mean, like I said, it's from what I understand about ref in football, a lot of things can be done. I mean, there's holding basically on every play, right? So, but like I said, we were taught if the penalty doesn't affect the outcome of the play, don't.
What was that?
Oh, yeah. It's my dog.
Somebody just shit themselves, didn't
The dog just walked for a shit between my legs, then walked away.
they? You're kidding.
No, they took nice of him come up here and act like he's gonna love me, farted, and then left.
Yeah,
Wow.
that came from your ass. Nasty motherfucker.
I got Boston Terriers, man. I don't know if you ever seen Boston Terriers, but they're farting motherfuckers.
I used to have an English bulldog. That is a fart machine.
Yeah, well, they snort.
God bless.
They're snorting and snarfling while they're eating, and it's bringing in air, and it causes them to get gas. That's the scientific explanation. Anyway.
That's science. I like that. I like when we have a good, well-rounded show, and we throw at least a little bit of guy or what's the Neil deGrasse. That guy.
Astrophysics, he says.
I guess. Afrophysics.
So, that's right. We like Afrophysics. It's worked good for me in my life. So, Scully, so you think of it, what's this individual Super Bowl that you think could have been rigged?
Scully's no longer with us. Again.
Oh, goodness. That has such a connotation. He's no longer with us, right? That's how we talk about the various Iraqis we find, They were no longer with us.
He's probably using the Wi-Fi at the Crystals, and I found it's best just to go ahead and just walk into the restaurant and go sit over in the corner, because usually in the parking lot, it's a hit or miss thing.
Hallelujah, right?
And just a pro tip for all y'all out there: Crystals doesn't have any kind of blocking devices on their internet. You can pretty much search for anything.
Damn it. Fuck, this is good knowledge, Scully.
Yeah, and if you've got a good VPN on your phone, you could do some damage at a Crystals.
Scully, pop back in so we can hear your take on.
Well, my thought, however, if this is found in any way, shape, or form, if it's ever discovered that there are rigged outcomes, particularly in something like a Super Bowl, how much money is flowing through Vegas and the betting parlors right now for this one particular game.
Well,
A
see,
lot of money.
What's that?
At least $500 million thrown through this game.
I would say it's probably north of that. I think that's a conservative estimate. I really do. But then, you know, I don't have any hard numbers to back that up. That just there's a lot of money being bet on this game, nationwide, worldwide, wherever betting is legal, of course.
But let me take 10 steps back and punt on what I was saying here. Okay, like when it comes to referees, like, dude, I had one time I was doing a youth game, and this team, I basically reffed all their games basically all season except for like 2 of them. This one team, these young boys, they were getting their asses kicked every fucking week. I mean, they were pathetic. Well, it came down to a situation right at the end of the game. The other team had the ball on their own 1 yard line. Well, they snapped the ball, went to run, and the kid, he got tackled. I mean, it was a 50-50 call, but I said, fuck it. I'll give this other team a safety.
Yeah, well, you're showing the arbitrary nature of something.
And basically, you're admitting to destroying a child's dream on this show. This is amazing. This is turning out to be a really good episode.
Yeah, but he boosted another child's dream.
Yeah, but I mean, how do you just do that?
Oh, they do it all the time. That's the way. That sounds like junior high. You know, that's like the whole point of it, ain't it?
This is we're getting really, really deep, y'all. I just want y'all to know we're going down a really, really dark rabbit hole here.
It's like the philosophical nature of how people treat each other boiled down to the NFL. I mean, think about the whole idea of legitimacy, right? And why I might place a bet. I might place a bet because I feel there's a legitimate chance that the game's going to be played out in legitimate fashion, right? I'll have to suspend disbelief and not remember that it's entertainment and think that it's a legitimate fashion and that my money has a chance, right? As long as that illusion exists, right, then the whole thing stays together. But if that illusion ever falls apart, right, then that the league itself and the gambler behind it is both suspect, and they can't make no money, even if there's sanctions, right? It doesn't even matter if there's sanctions because they have screwed each other. So if they're going to play those games, they have to be real sure.
Here's the thing, which you're focused on the money end. You got to think about how the NFL wants to replace dynasties and start anew. And like I said back before, like ever since Jerome Bettis, any NFL legend, I'm talking that's going to be first ballot Hall of Famer, every time since Jerome Bettis, if they said they were going to retire that year, they won the fucking.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Bob. Bob, put your mute it just for a second, man. That's what I'm doing when I'm taking my rips.
Okay.
Damn.
No, man, that's part of the that's part of the sound of it.
Part of the legacy. Yeah, part of the legacy.
But
hell yeah.
Let me go back to when I gave those kids those 2 points, probably the only points they scored that year. Those kids won like they fucking won. They beat the Patriots. They were so happy. And you know what was fucked up? The 3 other guys, referees in my 4-man crew, were so pissed at me for prolonging the game. They were like, motherfucker, we wanted to get out of here. You didn't have to give them that safety. I was like, well, you know, man, I wanted, you know, the kids to have at least fucking 2 points for the year.
But that's the thing, though. It wasn't about anybody else's feelings. It was about the grown adults' feelings that just wanted to get the fuck up out of there. I love that. This is the heartless just man, this is turning out to be.
Hell yeah.
So, Chris, tell us, in your opinion, what is the most obvious Super Bowl that was rigged, in your opinion?
The most obvious?
Yes, that you think is the most obvious.
Oh, definitely when fucking Tampa Bay came back and beat the Falcons. That would probably have to be it.
Well, now, you'd have to have players involved in that, though.
Biggest comeback, because like I said, because Tom Brady.
I thought the Tampa Bay and the Falcons were in the same conference.
No, he's talking about the Patriots Falcons Super Bowl where they were up 28-3 at the half, and the Patriots come back and won.
So he just said Tampa Bay on accident.
The one where Matt Ryan somehow magically forgot.
Yeah, I heard Tampa Bay too. Yeah, that's what threw me off.
Yeah, he probably didn't say that, but I'm sure it's the Super Bowl he's talking about.
No, he said Tampa Bay. I heard it too.
Yes,
that motherfucker.
And then at the end, isn't that the one where they should have ran and they passed it and it didn't work out?
Chris, you still there? Nope.
Man, it's some bullshit.
I think everybody's hitting something tonight.
He's gone. He's gone. Better learn how to face it. He's gone. Yeah. Well, what happens? What are you doing that's making this happen? Let's
fucking touching a button. I don't know. I took it off my home Wi-Fi, thinking maybe that was it, and I'm just running on my
your data
provider's Wi-Fi. But like I said,
I got good data.
You know. And then like if you look at and I'm going to go back to what Mr. Arthur had to say about when the fucking Jets won Super Bowl III. I mean, because that was guaranteed. Remember?
Yes.
He said, "I'm guaranteeing us a win."
Yeah, when Broadway Joe was an asshole like that, though.
You know what's funny? Is Joe Namath is from Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, which is like a stone's throw away from Newcastle. Mm-hmm. And my old man and my uncle used to play pool with Joe Namath, a pool hall here in Newcastle that when it was downtown. And my uncle told me, he said, man, Joe Namath, he said, when he come in, he was like the most raggiest kid you would ever want to see. But everybody knew that, he was, a baller. Well, he said when he came in and he told everybody that he was going to play down in Alabama, they all fucking laughed at him and called him hillbilly and shit. Mm-hmm. Well, he went on to prove everybody wrong,
He did.
But, yeah, see, you know what? I thought, I lost $10 a couple weeks ago when the Bills lost, because I was thinking, Buffalo had it pretty bad, and what would be something to revive that city would to win the fucking Super Bowl. So I bet my buddy $10 that the Bills were going to do it, but obviously I was off. I mean, I don't know as far as like it being scripted. Like who's going to play in the playoffs?
So that was my next question to go ahead and sum this thing up before we get on to the Dr. Ball segment. Super Bowl rigging considered, who's going to win the Super Bowl, Chris?
Oh, there was one guy that came out and he has the list of the Super Bowl winners up to 2027. And this year it's going to be the Eagles.
Didn't Marty McFly have the same thing in Back to the Future?
That's correct. I just did the fact check on that, and that's correct.
I have not watched that movie in decades.
That's a great movie.
So who do you got?
I'm going to go with Philly. You know what? There was a game this year that the broadcasting company fucked up during the first quarter of that. I can't remember what game it was, but I think it was the Bears.
They told something that didn't happen yet.
Yeah, they predicted the final score like right in the middle of the first quarter, and they caught it. But who they predicted the win came out, but the final score was off. But I'm going to tell you this, though, too. Now, sometimes refs don't have a choice. to basically not throw a flag. And maybe.
Anybody want to fill in the blanks for him?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Chris, we lost you, brother. Hang up and do it again. Well, I mean, I'm convinced. I'm not spending any money on betting on this Super Bowl now.
You weren't going to anyway, Dickhole.
That has nothing to do with it. I'm making a stand right now.
There you go. I'm not spending money on it anyway.
I'm going to spend my money on other things that I know are not rigged and are like political contributions. I'm going to spend my money on politics.
But
Chris Scully.
Like I was saying, though,
like you were saying.
I think I got cut off before I was able to finish. I can sit there and say that refs most definitely, can throw the game any way they want and who they want to win. And I was going to say, there's some times where there's obvious no calls where a ref is like, oh shit, I can't throw a flag because that pass was clean and there was no interference. But definitely, most definitely, a ref can. I want to say okay, now the NFL has I think the NFL has a 9-man crew. If you just got 4 of those 9 in cahoots on who the NFL would say we want to win, it can definitely be done. No doubt in my mind.
All right, so go ahead and give us the insight. Who's winning the Super Bowl? Who is rigged to win the Super Bowl?
I would say Philly.
Because
it's going to have you Bama fans all enjoy it.
I don't know, man. I think they want to make Mahomes right. They want to make him the guy for the future. And they'd love to see somebody replace Tom Brady. It was young and dynamic. So I think that Chiefs going to win the Super Bowl.
Hello, this is Viral TikTok King and Justin Brindley. You're watching Smacking Off the Podcast with Doug and Shannon.
Support Smacking Off the Podcast by patronizing our affiliates' products. Go to our website at smackology.42web.io and click the affiliates link. There you will find a host of great deals to stretch your dollar to its fullest.
Great products like Showtime, Shark Vacuums, Dish Network, Vidgo, Hulu, NFL Plus, and GameStop. The list goes on. Remember, smackology.42web.io and remember to click the affiliates link for these products and many more.
Dr. Balls is a presentation of Smacking Off the Podcast.
Dr. Balls, the state of college hoops.
Bob, my first question. What the fuck happened to Alabama against Oklahoma?
Well, when we had the last Dr. Ball segment, I mentioned that I was interested in how Alabama would do against Oklahoma's defense, and Oklahoma's defense had their Super Bowl game, and they're well coached on defense by Kelvin Sampson, and they made the freshmen at Alabama look like freshmen. But hell, if they get that out of their system, I mean, from here on out, that might be a good loss for Alabama.
Well, they haven't lost since. How many games have they played since? Let me look.
I think it's at least 3. I know they beat LSU on Saturday.
That's a big win.
That's a big win. We like that. And since Purdue lost to Indiana, then I think that Alabama will stay about the same in the polls. So that was a big win. We like it when they beat LSU. LSU.
They beat the fuck out of Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah.
The game before 101-44.
Jesus.
Yep, they beat LSU by 10, but man, Oklahoma. I mean, that game was close, and I had a bunch of shit going on, and I quit watching it, and I thought I'll just check back in later to see that Alabama won, and I didn't. I checked back to see that they got their fucking ass handed to them.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
That happened.
It was great defense, though, on the part of Oklahoma, and they frustrated the ball handling and shooting at Alabama, and I'm glad that they had that loss now. So now that's something they can work on going into the tournament. But they're not going to face a whole lot of teams that's as good defensively as Oklahoma, and Oklahoma just got lucky and made the right shots at the right time and the right free throws. They normally have at men's score, and even though shout out to Timothy Bailey, they're a solid program with outstanding defense, but they haven't had consistent scoring. So it was just one of them games where the a top 5 team comes in and you're hyped and you've got a huge crowd and the guys locked down on defense, and it makes it tough for a team like that coming in, and it's a big win for Oklahoma. But it's not stopping Alabama on their quest to win the SEC and the national championship, and I don't believe it's going to impact them negatively going into the tournament.
I don't know. I think it definitely has to give any team that's got the same capabilities as Oklahoma a good blueprint of what you got to do against Alabama.
That's true, but if you look at the SEC and the style of play, the only team really that can lock down there's only really 2 teams that could lock down Alabama, and one of them's inconsistent, and that's Kentucky, so they might not do it that day. And Tennessee, and Tennessee has been great overall, but they've had moments too where they were not as consistent as people would have liked. So I still give Alabama. I mean, to me they're still number 1 seed any way it goes, and so it's just a game that you need when you've got young players, and that's what people forget about Alabama. Miller is a freshman, right? He might look all NBA, but he's a freshman, right? And you're going to have games like that, and that's, to me, it's just a teaching moment. If you're Coach Oates, you're saying, look, guys, these guys locked us down defensively. We got to get stronger. We got to get tougher. This is what we got to do. And then you can use that tape. I can pull guys to the side and say, when this guy came up on you and was preventing you from leaking to the lane and was you got to deliver the ball earlier, or you got to do this. And then when I come into that situation again, and I'm seeing that they're going to deny me a part of the court, then I've got to get rid of the ball earlier, right, and create some movement. And that's what Alabama didn't do in that game. Is whenever they would trap them in the corners and stuff like that, the guys wouldn't recognize it early enough to deliver the ball. And then when they did try to deliver the ball, then somebody'd steal it and take it to that end and score. Because that's really the only way Oklahoma was scoring consistently was off turnovers. It was just an ugly game, man. It reminded me of like Georgetown and Villanova in like 1987. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't a pretty game like Alabama's been having. And that's the tournament is ugly, right? That's how you win the tournament, an ugly tournament. Let's say you're a team like Marshall coming into the tournament, you got to play Alabama, right? There's no way you're going to run with Alabama. They've got the best talent in the country. That's why they're Alabama and you're Marshall, right? So what do? Well, I'm going to shorten the game, make the possessions as long as possible, right? And then I'm going to contest everything that you do and goes on and denies all the spaces on the floor. I can't beat your guys, but I can control spaces on the floor, and that's how NCAA tournament basketball is played. Alabama had a taste of it from a team that could execute defensively in the half court especially, and now they've got you could teach on that going into the tournament, and you win with whatever you learned.
Okay, so it looks like the pollsters didn't think much of the loss to Oklahoma as Alabama stayed number 3.
Yeah, and then Purdue lost as well. And but of course that's blood. That's bitter. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking about Purdue and Indiana at Indiana, and Indiana's a horrible place. They talk about Cameron Indoor Stadium. Well, hell, Assembly Hall's like a barn. I mean, it's like it's not much better than what you see in the movie Hoosiers. It may even be the same damn court, and they're right on top of you, and they're heckling, and the officials there let them get away with a lot. The crowd, including.
Let's get to the important thing here.
What's that?
What the fuck's going on at Kentucky?
Well, I think Kentucky's going to the way they're looking right now, I think that they're going to be probably the 4th team overall in the SEC going into the SEC tournament and have a decent seed in the SEC tournament. They'll probably go into the SEC tournament as like a 9 or 10 seed. If you go in a 12 seed, they really saying you're out of there, right? So it's important that Kentucky can't lose 2 games in a row the rest of the season. And then they've got to play, Tennessee again and Auburn, and I think maybe Alabama again. I'm getting ready to double check that. Let's see. Yeah, on Sunday they beat Florida. It was a pretty solid game. They weren't able to score, but they played defense, good defense. So I was impressed with that because Florida is getting better, but they really ain't great, right? But they got a 7-footer that was really special, and he basically ran Sheboy out of the game, and I was a little distressed by that. Let's see. I'm looking at something here in Kentucky. Because I was looking at Alabama's schedule. Here we go. And trying to figure out if they had any chance. So they beat Florida. So they play, tomorrow at 9, Kentucky plays Arkansas. That's a big game.
Big game. Of course, the huge one coming up for Kentucky is going to be Saturday, February 18th, and that's Tennessee. The rematch against Tennessee, who beat them last time that they met.
No, we beat Tennessee at Tennessee, and now they're going to play us at home.
That's correct.
And so but Tennessee, I still believe this year that Tennessee's a better team. Now, I didn't like giving Coach Barnes credit because this is a guy that had DJ Augustine and Kevin Durant.
I don't like giving Tennessee credit for shit, but they are number 6 in the country at the moment.
I think this year they are better coached than Kentucky. But he got them guys up for that game, and it was ugly. We got to play Auburn twice, Florida again, Mississippi State and Georgia. So we're playing Arkansas twice, and then Tennessee. So for Kentucky to make for the SEC tournament to not matter, for Kentucky getting into the NCAA tournament, they've got to they can't lose to any of those chump teams, and they can only lose to probably either Tennessee or Auburn. Now, if they lose to Tennessee and Auburn, right, if they drop 3 games, one of the games to Arkansas, anyway they go, if they drop 3 games, if they get in the tournament, they won't be in a good position at all. We're talking like a 12 seed. So they've got to win of those 8 games, they've got to win like 6 of them. But if they beat Tennessee again, that's a great resume builder. So
Screw that.
We like that. So I'm feeling good about Kentucky in terms of that they've had improvement, but I'm not feeling good. I don't believe that they're a great team, even though he made a lineup change as far as Calipari goes. We got to go back to that. So he calls people that criticize him basketball baddies and all this other stuff like, I know better. Of course you know better than me. You've been in college basketball for 40 years. But if I can see it and you can't, what's the problem? Right? Is it your ego that you don't want to change? So we go into this losing streak, right, in a situation where Kentucky might not make the tournament. What does he do? He makes the lineup changes that the fans are screaming about, and next thing you know, we've won 6 out of 7. So Calipari's, if he wants to be there and continue to draw his lifetime paycheck or whatever that's going to be, right, obviously that's one thing, but his ego, I don't believe he wants to lose that bad that often as we've had, like early exits from the tournament, not making the tournament. I mean, we're just talking about the last 3 years aren't up to the standard of a Hall of Fame coach, which he has that resume. So what does he got to do? He's got to deliver, man. I mean, it's just that simple.
I think probably the more stinging blow in all of this is, losing to South Carolina.
Oh yeah, that was a horrible game.
Yeah, I mean, that right there is a loss against number 3 Alabama is forgivable. A loss against South Carolina and with the shape that their program has been in as of late, well, for a while now. Let's be honest.
Hi, this is Kyle Golick, and I'm standing in the middle of SEC country over here, Big Ten country here. Where do I stand? SEC. Big Ten, SEC, Big Ten. You're listening to the Smacking Off the Podcast.
Listen to Smacking Off the Podcast on Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. Also check us out on the Podbean app, Player FM and Podchaser. Go to the Smacking Off the Podcast channel at smackingoff.podbean.com.
That's not a good look, man. That's not a good look to be making the kind of money and have the prestige that's associated with your name. You just don't do things like that. You find ways to at least squeak by, at least win the game. You don't have to win by much, just win that game, because that's really a horrible look, particularly when it comes down at the end of the season and hairs start getting split for seeding.
That's the core of it for Kentucky fans, right? So Calipari over the last 3 years has had losses that are historic for our program that never should have happened, right? At the level that we expect the program to be, and it has performed at historically, right? In college, the world of college basketball, Kentucky is Alabama in college football, in my opinion, right? We are the dominant program of all time. And when you fall behind other programs like Kansas or North Carolina, even though you're still getting the same kind of players they are, then people start asking questions, right? When you're losing to South Carolina at home, right, or anywhere in the shape that program is, it's just unacceptable, right? When you lose the same,
it should be a comfortable win. It really should be. But hey, and that thing, players get hot. You have injuries, things like that happen. You still should find a way to win. When you're talking about the level of coach that Coach Cal is perceived and has been advertised as for quite some time. And I mean, it's not like the man hasn't had any success before he's come to Kentucky, but Kentucky's, Doug can relate to what I'm, where I'm going with this. I mean, as Alabama fans, we kind of get spoiled with that kind of success. And, if Alabama comes out and is really extremely shaky against Vanderbilt and loses by even just 2 points, oh my God, you can imagine the fury.
It's like
so. I can relate. Having to watch Kentucky fall to such a vanilla South Carolina team, which has improved a little bit.
And
since last season. You
got to make a comparison. I mean, for like Florida coming into 2018 had a lot of expectations. They changed coaches and stuff, and there's no way that you expect Kentucky to beat them, which was the first time Kentucky had beat them soundly in a long time, and So in college football, when Kentucky beats Florida, that was a moment for the program, and it's been a downward slide ever since, right? And I don't want to see that for the Cats, especially when you are recruiting top 5 guys. When you're recruiting top 5 guys, and they can't play, that means you might develop them for the NBA, but you can't get them ready for the game, right? So, but I look at Alabama, and Coach Oates got a top 5 class, and now Miller might be the player of the year. So that's what I'm expecting when I give a guy a lifetime contract, and I treat him better than we treated Adolph Rupp,
And you feel a little bit okay if they go against, let's say, Kansas, and the final score is 77-75 instead of 77-68, which was the score of that game. I mean, you expect a much more competitive level. That's the same team that lost to South Carolina by 3 points.
But on the other hand, we've seen some historic runs out of Calipari teams that didn't look that good, and that's why I think that if they have to win, they can't lose more than 2 of these next few games. If they get in the SEC tournament, make a big run, and go hot into the NCAA tournament, all bets are off, because even though they haven't been coached well in general or haven't gelled or whatever reason you want to talk about why you've got the player of the year, right, and you can't win, right? Anyway, if they stay at the current momentum and go on a big run, then they have the same talent as the top teams. So if you get hot with a team that has that much talent, then you can win it all just the same as anybody else can. But consistency means everything if you're trying to win 6 games in a row. So then you got to talk about who are the teams can win 6 games in a row. Well, Kansas maybe, right? Purdue, I don't think they can win 6 games in a row in the NCAA tournament. Alabama, I think they can win 6 games in a row in the NCAA tournament. I think Tennessee could win 6 games in a row. I think UConn could. And, after that, there's not a whole lot out there. Houston probably could, but sooner or later they're going to have to face somebody like Alabama. When they faced somebody like Alabama, they lost. Gonzaga, I don't think they're going to win 6 games in the NCAA tournament. So it's a handful of teams that are locked in enough right now. So we got the whole month of February. So this is a big month for college basketball. Things determined over the next 6 to 8 games for teams where they're going to land and how it's going to be. And you'll see people getting hot. Creighton's starting to get hot, right? So stuff can happen. So that what teams that come out of this the most consistent, the ones that you pass the eye test to you know that they can hang on, that's who you got to look for in a tournament. And I still believe Alabama's the team. For me, Alabama's the team. I'd love to see them hang a banner in the SEC. Nothing would wake up UK fans like historically downtrodden teams, even though they've been great lately, right, to hang a banner that they feel like should be theirs, right? So I'd love to see Alabama hang a banner.
You see, this is all wrapped up in his love for Kentucky, goddammit.
Yeah.
Well, it makes sense because I would probably be thinking the same thing if I was a Kentucky fan.
Yeah.
I don't think Alabama will win the national championship, though. I hate to be negative on this, but
the reason I'm so high on them is they've played all the top teams, and the only one they lost to was Gonzaga, and I don't believe Gonzaga can beat them twice.
Well, we'll see on that. Shannon, I'm going to try to pull together a 30-minute Pike segment, Super Bowl segment for Thursday. Pike already wants to do it, but I don't know who's coming on with him.
I should be ready.
Okay.
I do have to work one night this week, but I'm hoping to be off by then.
Well, either way, I'll find somebody, and if you're then I'll just let Pike and them go at it.
All right, we'll do.
All right, and Robert, I think next week. See, we were supposed to get Gabriel and Landon on this week, but Auburn people aren't very jazzed up right now. Maybe
they're not.
Next week we can get Pike and Beeman on the same segment to talk Alabama, Tennessee.
I'd like to see that because then you got Pike. You got Pike. He's going to look at it from a betting standpoint, and then you got Beeman, who will have researched it every way to Sunday. So we like it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys.
All right.
Later.
Appreciate you.